I never expected it to happen in my own living room. Of all the places in the world, with all the people in my life, I never imagined the one I trusted most would cross a line that blurred every boundary I had ever set. It started innocently. My best friend Lily had been around for years. Funny, vibrant, the kind of girl whose energy could fill a room without trying. We shared secrets, late-night talks, stupid arguments that ended in laughter. We understood each other in ways no one else could. That's why what happened that night hit harder than anything else could. I had invited a few friends over to hang out. It was Friday, quiet, nothing unusual. The night went on with the usual chatter. Video games, music, half-hearted attempts at cooking something edible. Lily stayed later than everyone else, which was normal. She always lingered. I didn't think much of it. Then, after everyone left, we ended up in the living room, alone. Dim lighting, soft music playing in the background. Something about the room felt charged, though I couldn't place it. We sat across from each other on the couch, casually scrolling on our phones, laughing quietly at memes we'd shared a dozen times before. And then, she looked at me differently. It wasn't a glance you could mistake for friendship. It lingered, deliberate, searching, like she was measuring me against something I didn't understand yet. My stomach twisted in a way I hadn't felt before. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice low, hesitant. I laughed nervously, brushing it off. "Okay, what is it?" She didn't answer right away. She shifted closer, her knee brushing mine, an accidental touch that sent electricity up my leg. I froze for a second, trying to convince myself it meant nothing. "I've been thinking about us," she said finally. Her eyes were wide, honest, nervous. "And I don't mean just friends." The words landed heavier than a punch. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard correctly. "Wait, what?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my heart was racing. "I mean, I want more. I want us to be more than just friends," she whispered. Her voice trembled, soft, almost desperate. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My mind was spinning. Lily? Sexual? Here? Now? In my living room? I could feel my pulse in my throat. "Are you serious?" I managed finally. "Yes," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "I've tried to ignore it. I really have. But I can't. I don't want to anymore. I want you." The air around us thickened instantly. Every laugh, every casual conversation from earlier faded into the background. It was just us. My heart slammed against my ribs. My body reacted before my brain could catch up. A mix of anticipation, fear, and something dangerously thrilling. I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell her to stop, to stay my friend, to not risk this. But part of me, an untamed, reckless part, curious, maybe even hungry, didn't want her to. She inched closer, and I noticed the way her hair fell perfectly across her shoulder, the way her lips trembled slightly, invitingly, like she was daring me to respond. The brush of her hand against mine was deliberate this time. My fingers tingled, my stomach knotted, and I realized I was holding my breath. "Are you thinking about it?" she asked softly, almost teasing. "Thinking?" I repeated, my voice hoarse. Lily, this is crazy." "Crazy good?" she whispered, leaning closer, so close I could feel the warmth from her lips. Her hand found mine fully now, fingers intertwining naturally, like they belonged there. I swallowed hard. I knew crossing this line would change everything. Our friendship, my life, her life. But there was a heat in her gaze that made me want to ignore all reason. "I've wanted this for a long time," she admitted, pressing her forehead lightly against mine. Her lips brushed mine, just for a second, teasing, testing. The contact was enough to send a jolt through me that made my knees weak. I pulled back slightly, catching my breath. "Lily, what are we doing?" She smiled, nervous, mischievous, almost predatory in a way that made my pulse spike. "Exploring," she said. "Just exploring. If it doesn't feel right, we stop." But I couldn't keep pretending I don't want this anymore. And there it was, that single word, want, hitting me in a way I hadn't anticipated. The forbidden thrill of desire mixed with friendship, trust, and years of shared history. It was intoxicating, dangerous, addictive. I knew, in that moment, nothing would ever be the same again. Our eyes locked, and I realized we were teetering on a line we couldn't step back from. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to pull away, to resist, to protect what we had. But another voice, louder, more primal, urged me forward. To taste this temptation, to explore what was hidden beneath the surface of our friendship, to risk everything for something dangerously thrilling. And just like that, Lily leaned in again. This time, our lips met fully. Not a tentative brush, not a tease, but a full, consuming kiss that made the world disappear. I could feel her body press closer, her hands sliding down slightly, and I realized the sheer intensity of desire she had been holding back all this time. I wanted to respond. I wanted to give in. Every instinct in me screamed, yes, yes, yes. But I also knew we were standing on the edge of something that could burn everything we had. And in that tension, the forbidden, the risk, the addictive thrill, I realized this story was only beginning. The night ended with us tangled on the couch, neither fully stepping back, neither fully giving in, our breaths heavy, our hearts racing, the air thick with unspoken promises and daring curiosity. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know how this would affect our friendship, or if it would last, or if we'd regret it. But I did know one thing. I was completely, dangerously hooked. And that hook, sexual, emotional, addictive, would pull us both deeper before the night was over. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of exhilaration and unease. My mind replayed every touch, every brush of her hand, every lingering glance from the night before. Lily was lying next to me on the couch, half asleep, her hair spilling over her face, and I realized with a shock that nothing about what happened felt accidental. She stirred, blinking sleepily, and smiled at me. That smile, innocent, teasing, provocative all at once, made my stomach twist in ways I didn't expect. "Morning," she whispered, voice low, intimate, like she was daring me to respond. "Morning," I said, my voice barely steady. My hands were clammy, my heart raced, remembering how close we'd been just hours before. "Did last night mean anything?" she asked, her eyes locking with mine. That gaze, hungry, curious, almost desperate, made it impossible to lie. "It meant something," I admitted. "I just don't know what." She leaned closer, brushing her lips against my ear. "I want to explore it," she murmured. Her breath was warm, her tone teasing, challenging, and it made me shiver. "I don't want to pretend anymore." Her words were dangerous, addictive. I felt the tension in my chest, the pull of desire that had been building for months, maybe years, finally breaking free. I realized then that this wasn't just physical. It was emotional, psychological, a tangled mix of friendship, trust, and raw attraction. She shifted so her hand brushed mine again. This time, it wasn't tentative. Her fingers traced patterns over my skin, deliberate, almost predatory. I couldn't pull away. I didn't want to. Every nerve in my body screamed that this was wrong and exhilarating at the same time. "You know we can't just pretend," I said finally. My voice was low, but firm. "If we do this, everything changes." "I know," she said, eyes darkening with desire. "I don't care. I want it anyway." The words hit me like a punch. She wanted this as much as I did, maybe more. That admission made the heat between us almost unbearable. I could feel her body pressing closer, our knees touching, the weight of possibility pressing down on me like gravity. Her lips found mine again, slower this time, exploring, testing, claiming. My hands instinctively moved to her waist, feeling the warmth, the softness, the undeniable pull of chemistry that had been simmering under the surface for months. And then the teasing began, deliberate, addictive, almost torturous. She would pull back slightly, just enough to make me crave her more, then lean in again, biting softly, tracing her tongue across my bottom lip. Every brush, every touch, every whispered word built the tension until it was almost unbearable. "I've wanted this," she whispered between kisses, "for so long. I've been trying to hide it, but I can't anymore. You make me crazy." I swallowed hard. Her honesty, her desire, it was intoxicating, dangerous. I knew the rules of friendship, the invisible lines we shouldn't cross, but in that moment, they didn't matter. Not when every touch, every look, every whispered word made my pulse spike, my body react, my mind spin. "Lily," I said, voice trembling slightly, "we're going to get in too deep." "Good," she said with a mischievous smile. "I want to go deep." The sexual tension between us was almost suffocating. Every brush of skin, every stolen glance, every tentative movement became a game of control and surrender. I wanted to resist. I wanted to pull back. But her hands, her lips, her voice, all of it, pulled me forward like a current I couldn't fight. We moved carefully, almost reverently, exploring boundaries without speaking, letting our instincts guide us. Every accidental touch became intentional, every glance a spark that ignited the room. I realized then that this wasn't just desire, it was power. Emotional, sexual, psychological power. She had it, I had it, and neither of us could ignore it. Hours passed in a haze of whispered confessions, tentative touches, and playful teasing. The line between friendship and something more blurred, vanished, then reappeared in sharper focus every time we paused to catch our breath. We were learning each other again, not as friends, but as something dangerously intimate, something addictive. By the time the sun began to rise, we were exhausted, tangled in the couch cushions, our clothes slightly disheveled, hearts racing, breaths uneven. The room was silent except for the sound of our rapid breathing, the faint hum of the city outside, and the unspoken acknowledgement of what had happened. I looked at her then, really looked, and saw something new. Vulnerability, desire, trust, all mixed together in a way that made my pulse race and my stomach knot. I realized we had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and for some twisted, thrilling reason, I didn't want to. "Are we okay?" I asked, voice low, almost afraid. She smiled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Better than okay," she said. "We're alive, awake. We finally admitted what's been there all along." And in that moment, I knew she was right. Whatever happened next, whatever consequences awaited us, this night had changed everything. I was hooked, addicted, drawn in by desire, by trust, by the danger of blurring every line we had set for ourselves. We stayed that way, wrapped up in each other, the city waking around us, knowing that the night had started a fire we couldn't put out. A fire that would burn through every rule, every friendship boundary, every social expectation. And I knew, deep down, that this story was only beginning. The tension, the teasing, the sexual pull, it wasn't over. It had just started. And both of us were already too far gone to resist. The next few days felt like walking through a dream I couldn't wake from. Every message from Lily made my pulse spike. Every casual touch a jolt of electricity. We hadn't set any rules, but there didn't need to be rules. There couldn't be. The unspoken tension between us had thickened into something almost unbearable, an addictive mix of desire, curiosity, and danger. She showed up at my apartment unexpectedly one evening, a mischievous grin on her face and a glint in her eyes that promised trouble. I knew exactly what she wanted, and part of me, reckless, thrill-seeking, dangerous, wanted it too. "You know, I've been thinking," she said, sliding onto the couch beside me, deliberately close enough that our thighs brushed. "About last night, about us, about exploring more." I swallowed hard, my fingers tightening on the edge of the cushion. "Exploring more?" I echoed, trying to mask the heat rising in my chest. "Yes," she whispered, leaning closer, her hair brushing my shoulder. "I want to see how far we can go. No rules, no limits, just us." I wanted to protest, to remind her, and myself, of the friendship we'd built, the boundaries we'd crossed, the risk we were taking. But my body betrayed me. Every nerve, every pulse, every inch of skin that brushed against hers shouted yes. My rational mind froze. Desire had won. She shifted again, closer this time, letting her hand rest lightly on my thigh. Just the touch made me flinch, a delicious, burning ache that spread through me. Her fingers inched higher, teasing, daring, making me forget everything but the heat between us. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" she murmured, lips near my ear, her breath hot against my skin. I started, but my voice faltered. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. I could only feel. Her hand pressed a little firmer, brushing across the line we hadn't dared cross fully yet. My pulse quickened, my mind spun. Everything about this was reckless, dangerous, and intoxicating. "You want this," she whispered, her lips brushing my earlobe. "I can feel it. You want me too." The words, the touch, the closeness, it was all too much. I leaned toward her instinctively, lips meeting hers in a kiss that was heavier, deeper, more urgent than before. Our hands roamed with more confidence, more hunger, more recklessness. Each movement, each brush of skin, each teasing caress built the tension into a blazing, addictive fire that neither of us wanted to put out. Her lips left mine for a moment, just enough to trail down my jaw, my neck, teasing, testing. I shivered, breath catching, fingers threading through her hair. Every nerve screamed, every thought dissolved, leaving only desire and danger. "I've wanted this for so long," she admitted between kisses, her hands moving boldly now, exploring boundaries we had only hinted at before. "I can't stop thinking about you." "I can't either," I confessed, voice low, almost a growl. "This is insane. We shouldn't, but I can't resist." She smiled, wickedly, pressing closer, grinding slightly, daring me to give in completely. "Good," she whispered. "I want insane. I want this. I want you." And I realized then that the line between friendship and something much more had completely vanished. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word pulled us further into something dangerously addictive, something neither of us could, or wanted to, control. We moved around the apartment, careful enough to avoid total chaos but reckless enough to feel alive. Every glance, every touch, every tease carried a weight that was almost unbearable. The sexual tension wasn't just in the kissing or the brushing of hands. It was in the way we looked at each other, the way we breathed in sync, the way our bodies reacted instinctively, as if remembering something we'd been hiding from ourselves. Hours passed in a haze of whispered confessions, tentative touches, and playful dominance. We teased, we dared, we tested limits, and every small escalation felt like an addictive game neither of us wanted to stop playing. I had never felt such a mix of anticipation, fear, and desire in my life. At one point, she leaned back, smirking, eyes dark with mischief. "You're trembling," she said softly, almost tauntingly. "Maybe you're doing something to me," I admitted, voice low, uneven. "I am," she said, pressing her forehead against mine. "And I'm not stopping." The intensity of it, the thrill, the forbidden desire, the addictive danger made my head spin. I realized we were past the point of casual exploration. We were in a full-blown entanglement of lust and trust, craving and curiosity, desire and restraint. Every second we stayed close was like inhaling fire. Every glance, every touch, every whispered word made the night feel eternal. By the end of the evening, we collapsed on the couch, bodies intertwined, breaths heavy, hearts racing. The city outside continued its indifferent hum, but inside my apartment, the air was electric, charged, and dangerously intoxicating. Lily smiled at me, soft and wicked all at once. "This isn't over," she whispered. "I know," I said, voice hoarse, desire and excitement still coursing through me. "And I don't want it to be." I realized then that this wasn't just lust, it was addiction, it was obsession. It was dangerous, thrilling, and entirely consuming. And both of us were hooked, fully aware that crossing this line would change everything, but unable, or unwilling, to stop. The night ended with a lingering kiss, full of promise and fire, a silent acknowledgement that our friendship would never be the same. And as I watched her leave, I knew we had begun a journey neither of us could walk back from. A journey full of temptation, desire, and addictive intimacy. And I didn't want to. The next night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Every brush of her hand, every teasing smile, every whispered word from the night before replayed in my mind like a loop I couldn't escape. I wanted her, needed her, craved her in a way that made everything else fade away. When Lily knocked at my door, I opened it to find her leaning casually against the frame, hair messy, lips slightly parted, eyes dark and inviting. She didn't need words. Her body, her gaze, the slow tilt of her head said everything. "Can I come in?" she asked softly, almost teasing. "Of course," I said, voice low. My pulse was already racing before she even stepped inside. She didn't sit. She hovered, leaning close, letting our knees brush. That small contact sent jolts of electricity through me. Every instinct screamed yes, 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 but my mind tried to hold back, just a fraction, just enough to savor the tension. "I couldn't stop thinking about you," she admitted, voice husky. "About last night, about us." I swallowed hard, feeling the heat in my chest, the tension coiling low in my stomach. "Me too," I admitted, voice trembling slightly. "I can't get you out of my head." Her lips curved into a slow, wicked smile. "Good," she whispered, inching closer. Her fingers brushed my arm lightly, deliberately, teasingly. "Because I don't plan on letting you." Every word, every touch, every glance was calculated, addictive. My body reacted before my mind could catch up, heart pounding, blood racing, limbs tightening with anticipation. She leaned even closer, just a breath away, and whispered, "I want to explore everything with you tonight. No hesitation, no holding back." The words ignited something primal in me. I leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that was heavier, deeper, more desperate than before. Our hands tangled instinctively, roaming, teasing, daring each other further. Every inch of skin that touched set fire to my nerves. The heat, the temptation, the danger of what we were doing made the moment intoxicating and addictive. She broke the kiss, just barely, and looked at me with a spark of mischief. "You've been thinking about it all day, haven't you?" "Every second," I admitted, voice hoarse, fingers brushing over her waist. Her hand moved with deliberate intent, sliding lower, teasing, testing, igniting an ache I could barely contain. "Good," she whispered, pressing closer, letting our bodies align in a way that was intimate, electric, irresistible. We fell onto the couch together, the distance between us disappearing completely. Her lips found my neck, leaving trails that burned and teased. Every brush, every bite, every soft murmur made my mind spin, made me crave her more fiercely than before. "This is insane," I gasped, trying to pull back slightly. But she gripped my shoulders and shook her head, lips brushing mine in a whisper of insistence. "No, don't stop, don't think, just feel." Her words, her touch, her presence. Everything about her was addictive, intoxicating. I let go of reason completely. Every hand, every whisper, every kiss built the tension higher and higher until it was almost unbearable. I realized that this wasn't just desire. It was an obsession forming between us, fueled by trust, history, and raw, unrelenting temptation. She pressed against me fully, letting her lips explore, her hands roam, her body tease and challenge mine. The intensity of it, the danger, the addictive thrill of crossing lines we had never crossed before, made my head spin. It was intoxicating. It was reckless. It was perfect. You feel that? She whispered against my lips. That pull between us? That fire? Yes, I breathed. It's overwhelming. That's what I want, she murmured, lips brushing mine again, teeth grazing lightly, teasing, daring. I want this fire, this tension, this addictive chaos. I want us to burn a little, together. Her words sent shivers down my spine. I realized then that our friendship had transformed into something completely different. Something sexual, intoxicating, addictive, and utterly uncontrollable. Every glance, every touch, every whispered promise carried weight. Every teasing caress made the air thick, heavy, impossible to ignore. Hours passed in a haze of kisses, touches, and whispered confessions. Every movement, every teasing brush of skin, every intentional pause made the tension unbearable, yet we couldn't pull away. It wasn't just about sex, it was about connection, desire, and a thrill that came from walking a line that was supposed to be forbidden. At one point, she paused, her forehead resting against mine, breath uneven, eyes dark with desire and mischief. We're going too far, she admitted softly, almost shyly. But I don't want to stop. Me neither, I whispered, pressing closer, letting the addictive pull of her body, her lips, her hands guide me completely. I've never wanted anything like this before. She smiled, wicked and triumphant, brushing her lips against mine one last time before pulling back slightly. Good, she said, voice low and teasing. Because this is just the beginning. The night ended with us tangled on the couch, exhausted, exhilarated, and utterly addicted to each other. We lay there in silence for a moment, catching our breath, hearts racing, knowing that everything had changed. Our friendship was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous, thrilling, and addictive. And in that silence, I realized one truth. Nothing between us would ever be simple again. Every glance, every touch, every whispered word had escalated something that was beyond control. And we both wanted more. I didn't know where it would lead, or how far we'd go, or what consequences awaited. All I knew was that I was hooked. Fully, dangerously, irreversibly hooked. The following days were unbearable. Every time I saw Lily, every text, every lingering glance made my pulse race. My mind couldn't rest, replaying the feel of her lips, her hands, the way her body pressed against mine. I was addicted to her, to the tension, to the danger of what we were doing, and she was just as addicted. That Friday she came over again, this time with a confidence in her step that made my stomach twist. The air between us was thick, charged, electric, impossible to ignore. I could feel her presence before I even opened the door, her perfume, her mischievous grin, her eyes dark with desire and intention. I've been thinking, she said as soon as she stepped in, her voice low, intimate, teasing. About all the things we haven't tried yet, about how far we can go. I swallowed hard, heart racing. Lily, are you serious? She smiled, wickedly, stepping closer until our bodies brushed. More serious than ever, she whispered, lips grazing my ear. And I want tonight to be unforgettable. The tension was unbearable. My rational mind screamed caution, whispered about friendship, about the line we'd crossed, but my body ignored it completely. Every nerve was alive, every instinct urging me to give in, to explore, to surrender to the addictive pull between us. We didn't speak after that. Words were unnecessary. Our hands moved naturally, almost instinctively, touching, teasing, exploring. Every brush of her fingers against my skin made my stomach knot, my pulse spike, my head spin. Every kiss, every whispered sigh, every breathless laugh was fuel to a fire neither of us could control. She pressed closer, her body aligned with mine, hips shifting, teasing, daring. I responded instinctively, hands roaming, lips tracing, senses consumed by desire. The intensity was addictive, too much, too fast, thrilling and terrifying at once. We were losing control, and it felt incredible. I can't stop thinking about you, I whispered, breathless, voice trembling. Good, she murmured, lips pressing to mine again, teeth grazing softly, hands roaming, teasing, testing limits we had barely acknowledged. I don't want you to. I want you completely. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't just a best friend anymore. She was temptation made flesh, desire incarnate, an addictive, dangerous pull I couldn't resist. Every kiss, every brush of skin, every whispered word changed me closer to her, and I knew she felt the same. We explored the boundaries of friendship and lust, of trust and temptation, and every second was a heady, overwhelming mix of thrill, fear, and addictive pleasure. We laughed, teased, and surrendered to the intensity that had been building for weeks, months, maybe years. Every glance, every touch, every subtle move escalated the tension, making it almost unbearable, yet impossible to resist. Hours passed in a haze of kisses, caresses, and whispered confessions. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just us, caught in a dangerous, intoxicating cycle of desire and intimacy. Every heartbeat, every gasp, every shiver deepened the addictive tension, pulling us further into each other. At one point, she paused, forehead resting against mine, breathing uneven, eyes dark with triumph and hunger. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. "The pull? The fire? The need?" "Yes," I whispered, voice hoarse, trembling. "I've never felt anything like this before." "Good," she said, pressing her lips to mine one last time, soft and intoxicating. "Because this isn't just a fling, it's a storm, and we're in it." The words, the touch, the addictive tension, they overwhelmed me completely. I realized then that nothing would ever be the same. Our friendship was gone, replaced by a dangerous, thrilling intimacy neither of us wanted to escape. Every stolen glance, every teasing smile, every brush of skin became a new addiction, a new temptation we both craved. By the time the night ended, we were tangled on the couch, exhausted, exhilarated, hearts racing, breaths uneven. The silence was thick, heavy, intimate. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The electricity between us, the tension, the addictive pull, said everything words couldn't. I watched her as she left, feeling a mixture of exhilaration, longing, and anticipation. I knew this was only the beginning. Every time we were together, every touch, every word, every look would draw us deeper. Deeper into desire, deeper into temptation, deeper into a connection that was addictive, thrilling, and utterly irresistible. And I didn't want it to stop. I realized something crucial. Desire isn't just physical. It's psychological, emotional, addictive. It's the way someone looks at you, touches you, teases you, challenges you. Lily had become my addiction, my temptation, my reckoning, and I was hers. I knew the consequences would come. I knew boundaries might blur too far, emotions might spiral, friendship might fracture. But I also knew one truth. Once something this intense, this addictive, this dangerously thrilling begins, there's no going back. And neither of us wanted to go back. Some people might call it reckless. Some might call it wrong. But for us, it was irresistible, consuming, and intoxicating. The fire had started, and it would only grow. I smiled as I closed the door, heart racing, mind spinning. Lily had confessed her desire, and I had given in. We were addicted, entangled, and fully consumed by the intensity of what we'd begun. And deep down, I knew it would only get more addictive from here. We had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If you find this story good, please like and subscribe our channel. It's free for you, but helps us a lot to keep sharing real stories like this.